Total War Warhammer series is a turn-based strategy game that has been on the radar for so many players. If you played Total War Warhammer, you might have gotten some clues about the world and the races resembling peoples in the real world. These similarities are actually more than meets the eye. In this video we will be covering these details. But the land of the Warhammer universe is vast, and I cannot talk about everything in a single video without sounding too repetitive. Starting from the top of the map, the race Norsca is straight up a reference to the Vikings. They were known to be very bloodthirsty, and they brought total hell to wherever they sailed and pillaged. We see an exaggerated map of Scandinavia. The threat of the Vikings being so real for various centuries, the real size of Scandinavia was thought to be much larger than it always was. Most of the Warhammer universe was created with a Western Eurocentric outlook in mind. That's why the Norsca is depicted as a chaos race, sworn to ruin and raid. The location names in Norsca region are references to Scandinavian languages, or the Scandinavian mythology. Hell being an afterlife location in the myth, you have places named after this place. These are Mountains of Hell and Hellspire Mountains. Then there is a reference to mythological creatures found in Scandinavian mythology, like trolls and giants. These regions are namely Trollheim Mountains, Troll Country, and Giantholm Mountains. Naglfari, referring to the night, is the northernmost region, most likely due to how little daylight it receives. One other thing worth mentioning is up to the north, the sea named Kraken Sea. Kraken is a giant squid-like sea monster with arms big enough to wrap around ships. And yes, again, it originates from Norwegian culture, and it has a big place in the popular culture. And lastly, the city names. As if all these cultural references were not enough, the settlement names have connotations that are reminiscent of Scandinavian geographical features. The most prominent one, of course, being fjord. Thus, you have names like Trollfjord and Eyestreak Fjord. The other city names also sound very Scandinavian, like Varkamp, Aisling's Conclave, Sjoktrakon, Bersonlingskamp. It is also important to note that a settlement named after a longship graveyard, named after the awe-striking historical Viking longship. Kislev is based on Russia, but actually Slavs in a more general sense. We had a video about the first Kievan Rus state that explained their origins. Go ahead and feel free to check it out. This faction only came to be its own unique race in Warhammer 3. The city names that the faction has are mostly named after real-life cities, starting with the most obvious ones, Kislev after Kiev, the capital of the almighty Kievan Rus in today's Ukraine, Prague after Prague, and Fort Ostrosk after Ostrava in today's Czechia, Erangrad after Leningrad, today's St. Petersburg. Mind you that the oblast the city is located in is still referred to as Leningrad. The city Volksgrad is clearly named after Volgograd. There is an important reference behind this name. The region Volksgrad is in was famously settled by Germans, eventually came to be known as the Volga Germans. And the word Volk, meaning people in German, and the Russian Grad, which means city. The combination's translation would be people's city. This argument is further supported by the starting ruler of the city is like Kislevite faction called Robsman clan, which has a German undertone to it. The other Kislevite city names are not as clear as the ones mentioned previously, or they have rather generic names. The names Castle Alexandranov and Fort Strogov can be given as examples to generic names. Even though these have a connection to the lore of the game, they cannot be automatically attributed to a real-life city. There is a chance that Vitevo could be named after Warsaw, and Fort Jakova could have been named after Jakova in Kosovo. Even though this falls into sphere of Southern Slavs, it's not too crazy to not include them in a broader sense of Slavic-based Kislev faction. Zavastra, on the other hand, is likely a combination of two words in Serbo-Croatian, Zastava meaning flag and Strava meaning fear. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay safe, my friends.